Welcome to the Traitors, a Traitors podcast. My name is David Bloomberg, and I'm your host for Season 1 of the Traitors Canada. The Traitors features deep dives into every episode of the multi-award-winning hit TV competition show, The Traitors, as well as interviews with contestants from the show. Today, we're talking about the Traitors Canada Episode 7, and I have another fun guest as I welcome my friend and a longtime member of the New York City Survivor community, plus someone I've played many games of Zoom Mafia with. So we've both murdered each other more than a few times, probably. Laura Effinger-Dean.
Hey, David. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. And, please try not to murder me on this podcast.
I can't make any promises.
Oh, dang. Well, I mean, at least you're not lying, so that's good. So how have you been enjoying the Traitors Canada, especially compared to the other ones?
I'm really enjoying this season. I think it's like two of the stronger traitors we've had.
Yes.
In across the different seasons. And the Faithfuls are, they at least are not complete idiots, I guess. Yeah. And even if they may not have made it quite there in this episode, but they were making logical points and then just veered off in another direction. So,
yes.
But yeah, I think it's a really fun cast. I loved having Kevin on. I was so sad he left last week. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, we'll get more into that as we get to this episode, but let's go ahead and set up the Traitor game. For anyone who is new to this podcast, Laura and I will each lie to each other once during the podcast. The lie can be big or small about the traitors, ourselves, or anything else, as long as it is a complete fabrication. However, we are looking for fake facts, not fake opinions, like I can't say I love the way Trayvon is playing this game. And I think you would pick up if I said that anyway. So as I've mentioned previously, any lie involving numbers needs to be something like an order of magnitude. So I can't say I have 9 pages of notes when I only have 8. I would have to say I have 80 pages of notes, which would be a little much even for me. At the end of our episode, we'll put our traitor hunting skills to the test and see if we can detect the other person's lie. Are you ready to betray me?
I am.
All right. In that case, our game begins now. And we start episode 7 up in Traitor Tower. Mike and Kuzi are very happy about Kevin's banishment. Much happier than we were, I would say.
Yeah, I'm glad for them that they're happy. But I mean, obviously, this was, fantastic for at least Mike's game. Maybe not Kuzi's game, but like this was, a big banishment that I can understand why they're so delighted.
Yes. Now they have to decide whether to murder Mary or Melissa. Since Mary forcefully called out Mike at the round table and Kuzi is still worried about the airport fiasco, it seems obvious they're getting rid of Melissa, which is what I predicted last week. And we'll find out as we head to breakfast and we say good morning to Trayvon, May, Mike, and Donna. Trayvon explains he targeted Kevin because he had his logic and to him it made sense. I'm not sure Trayvon actually knows what any of those words mean.
It's, he's heard them before and he's just repeating them in the same order. So.
So Mike notes that they're team leftovers, which they make it sound like it's something they've discussed before. I don't remember if it was very brief.
No, I mean, I assume there's been some discussion among the blue team of uniting against the red team, but I don't remember them using that specific terminology before.
Yeah. Mike says if Mary is murdered today, that only leaves 3 people from the red team in the airport mission. So Leroy, Kuzi, or Gurleen have to be a traitor. Very psychic Donna sits down next to Mike during this whole conversation and doesn't pick up on anything.
That's going to be a theme for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, well, yes. This is not doing her psychic medium business any favors, I don't think.
Nah, not so much.
Nobody who has come on the Traitors and claimed themselves as a psychic has done them. It hasn't been good advertising. The only differences with Donna is she doesn't start every sentence with, as a psychic, I know that, or the medium, the spirits tell me, and she's lasted longer than the other psychics. So,
Yeah.
probably because she doesn't start every sentence that way. So people know they're not worried about her. Now, incidentally, I wondered what they would do to Dom's picture on the wall since he was thrown out last week due to rule breaking, which, by the way, everybody and their brother has been like messaging me like, what did he do? What did he do? I don't know. I have no inside knowledge. These people are all on contract. They all have NDAs. We're not going to find out, so sorry. But anyway, I paused and studied the wall and his photo was gone. So it looks like they did to him. Yeah. What Big Brother does to people. They just erase them.
I didn't pick up on that. That's harsh.
It was very quick.
Yeah. They almost erased him from the rest of the show too. So
yes. Yeah. I think, I think we were talking last week, they were saying, yeah, he's had one confessional and that's probably why, although I do think I heard his name in this episode. I think.
Yeah, I saw that in my rewatch. May mentioned Dom's name, and I'm like, dude, Dom's gone.
Yeah, I was surprised they left that in there. Like, why did you not cut? They must not have been able to cut around it or something.
It would have been really funny if they just cut Dom entirely from the season. Just didn't even show the scene where he gets booted, and they just sort of like don't show, like, ignore that guy in the background. That's just somebody in the crew. Don't worry about him.
Kind of like Big Brother, US Big Brother. Sometimes they'll have something where they'll have like a musician come visit the house. But the way the scheduling works out is the musician comes before the eviction, but they show it after the eviction. And then they have to cut around the person who was evicted because they don't want to admit that that's when the musician came.
Right. Yeah.
Getting back to the people who were at breakfast, Leroy, Gurleen, and Kuzi come into breakfast, and Mickey. I always forget Mickey's there. So I literally had to add and Mickey to my notes. Leroy tells us he wants to work with Donna. She says she's getting really comfortable with the fact that she's being played by the game, and even says she's happy to be banished and stand up and say she's a faithful. I don't know what to add to that.
I don't know if she's ever going to get that chance.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to make a prediction right now, I think she will be dragged to the end by the Traitors and then just happily give away the money.
100%. Yeah. Because like she's clearly a faithful, but she keeps defending Kuzi.
Right.
So like nobody has any reason to get rid of her at this point.
We could call her like Bowie Jane Donna, Donna Jane.
How did your game change? You
yes.
joined the Traitors with Kuzi and I.
All right. Well, Gurleen tells us she feels lost without Kevin. We know the feeling. And Mary has to walk in or all of her theories are out the window. But instead, Melissa shows up and surprises lots of people in the room, plus me.
Melissa... I was... Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was so shocked by this. Like, I was so sure Melissa was going to be gone. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to take out Mary here for, like, all the reasons you've already stated, but, like, especially the red team, blue team thing. It just, I didn't get it at all.
Yeah, I mean, we flash back to Traitors Tower, and Kuzi says Mary can't help them get further in the game, so they get rid of her. And it's like, but like half of the remaining players thought Mary was a traitor.
Right. And like, given the end of the episode, it's like we could have just swapped those two.
Right.
And it would have been exactly the same outcome. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, Melissa does acknowledge that, people will be looking at her because, so many times in the past they have had, a traitor has put themselves on the death row list. And so, that I guess that's what Kuzi and Mike were thinking was eyes are going to turn on her anyway. But again, it seems like almost everyone believed Mary was a traitor. So why not
Right.
enhance that?
Yeah. Very, very odd decision.
So after breakfast, Leroy, Donna, and Mickey all talk about their suspicions. Melissa is brought up, and Leroy says she often tries to manipulate him, and also that she was suggesting koozie, which he doesn't seem to believe. Donna tells us she also thinks Melissa has been drawing her close to use as a pauna. Get it, Donna? Pauna? Took me a minute. I was like, oh, good, Donna. Okay. Um, in the cars on the way to the next mission, May tells Gerline and Leroy that she's thinking koozie, and she goes through how Koozie has previously said she knew people were faithfuls, but then voted to banish them. Neither Leroy nor Gerline seem convinced. In another car, Trevon tells Koozie and Donna how he suspects Mike, and also mentions how both Gerpiar and Mary singled out Mike and were murdered immediately. So, wow, look at May and Trevon finally getting a clue. What is going on here?
I know I mean, what are Leroy and Gerling thinking here though? Like,
Yeah.
what do they think happened with the shield? Like, do they think there's something else that happened that they just haven't thought of? Like, they must know that who's like, one of those three, one of the other two is a traitor, right? Like,
I mean, it's possible, but the other thing is, and I've said this, and maybe it's, maybe I'm just overthinking it. There were 8 people on a team back then or something, 7 or 8. And so it's really not terrible odds to take a shot. Let's say that both traitors were on the other team.
mhm.
It would almost have been worth taking a shot just to send them into the tizzy that this has turned into. Now, we
Right.
know that wasn't the case, but it would have been, interesting to do because, yeah, okay, there's a low percentage chance that you hit the shield, but so what?
But it still doesn't work though, because then whoever had the shield would have admitted it at
That's
breakfast.
true. That is
And
true.
yeah, like the fact that Kuzi is hiding that she had the shield, and I mean somebody had the shield, like,
Yeah.
and it wasn't whoever got murdered that night. I don't even remember now.
Yeah, it couldn't have been. Yeah. I don't either, but was that when no, that wasn't Dr. Nazila.
Crystal, I think.
Was it
Crystal.
that far back? Wow. I
Yeah.
thought Crystal was more recent, but I can't remember for sure. So um I want to say gone but not forgotten, but yeah, gone, but we've kind of forgotten when. So and I, that's a good point. Whoever had the shield would have had no reason to hide it otherwise. So
Right.
um okay. Well,
Yeah. So I get why I guess it was Trayvon who was saying this, or Mayor Trayvon was saying this, and it's like,
yeah.
yeah, this is like one of the few times, like, I've gone back and watched most of the previous seasons of The Traitors. This is one of
Hmm.
the few times where they have legitimate, incontrovertible evidence that they can say somebody in this group is a traitor.
Hmm.
Like, it's very rare. It's not like Mafia where the detective at least can
Right.
tell you, like, oh, I identified the Mafia. Like in The Traitors, it's almost always about vibes. And this is one where they actually have some information, and it's driving me crazy that they're not using it. So,
Yeah, I mean
yeah.
they're trying to use it sort of, but they're always just, pointing off in the wrong random directions.
Yeah.
Um but they get to the mission, and it's a typical one we've seen many times before where players have to carry or roll barrels with monetary amounts on them through a forest and to a finish line. And it's kind of funny because usually the host has some elaborate story like a truck was coming through carrying all my barrels of wine and it crashed and spilled the barrels everywhere. But they didn't even bother with that. It was just Kareen was just like, yeah, there are barrels. You got to go get them. Uh,
Right. I think there was like another season where they had like, drinks that you could purchase. And
yes.
so I think Mike at least was expecting that, because at the end he was like, well, can we get a drink?
Yeah.
And she's like, all right, I'll see you back at the castle, guys.
Yeah. So, and then we were talking about shields. There are some barrels with shields, and if one or more
Mhm.
make it to the end, the players decide who gets access to the armory, which is interesting. So it's not the person who carries the shield over. It's like whoever lugs the shield then they get to decide who goes. So,
Right.
To me, it's like, why would you lug one then, reduce the monetary amount, and possibly not get the safety anyway?
I mean, I guess there's some merit to like at least one person having a shield to reduce the options of the traders at nighttime. But yeah, I think, given this group is like pretty divided, I don't,
Mhm.
it kind of makes sense they ended up not taking any shields because like, how are they going to possibly decide on like nobody
Right,
trusts that anybody else is going to let them take the shield.
right. And really, the only people they would probably all agree to give a shield to is someone who um, wouldn't need it.
Hmm. Yeah, very true.
So, all right. So they run through the forest. They grab barrels. They're at first they're grabbing everything. Then they start being more selective to get the higher value ones. They leave the shield behind. At one point, May calls out Kuzi because she's carrying $1,000 worth of small barrels instead of rolling larger ones.
Right.
Which, okay, is that important to anything? Just the relationship between May and Kuzi, as we'll see.
I know.
Uh,
I sympathized with Kuzi in that moment. I'm like, I definitely would have been that person where I'm like, hey, I found this one small thing I can do, and I'm doing it well, damn. And May is like, no, Kuzi, give them to me. And Kuzi's like, what are you talking about?
yeah.
Leave me alone.
They eventually find a big $6,000 barrel. So Leroy and Mickey get that one. It comes down to literally the last minute, the last seconds by the end of it, before they get them across. And as time ticks down, they get a total of $10,500, but no shield. So that's a pretty good chunk for them. That's, 10% of the overall prize pot. So
I think that's the most they've gotten so far.
other than the
But,
first one, the first they got like 20,000,
oh, okay. Yeah.
which,
But
which
yeah, usually it's more like 6,000 or
right.
something.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
what they're talking about. Oh, we haven't added much. Well, you haven't had the opportunity to add much in some cases. I mean, some cases they've just screwed up, but in other cases, they're just,
Right.
Um, so now everybody's back in the cars on the way, back to the mansion. Gurleen and Leroy suspect May. So there's your answer. And May and Melissa suspect Kuzi. So more people throwing out more suspicions.
All right.
Later, Mike talks to Leroy and goes back to the airport team again. Leroy is suspicious of Melissa. And then Kuzi and Melissa talk, and Kuzi says she's so tired of hearing about the airport thing.
I'm sure you are, Kuzi.
Yeah, exactly. If I were you, I'd be tired too. But you're the one who set this into motion by doing that. So
Yeah, I mean, I found it so interesting. Like several times during this episode, we see Mike talking to people saying, "Okay, here's the math on the red team," and it's
mhm.
like, he didn't have to be the one sort of leading the charge
Yes.
on that. And I thought for a minute he was trying to like set up Kuzi to go, but I don't know. Maybe he's just like me, and he just couldn't help mentioning the logic of it.
I, well, and
Yeah.
also the thing is, what's been pointed out about Mike is that he tends to reflect what other people are saying. So if he knows people are going to be talking about the airport, he gets out ahead of it. I don't know that reflect is therefore the proper word, but he kind of
Mhm.
jumps ahead of it and
He
brings it up
anticipates
first.
it. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
So that way he looks like he's contributing when really all he's doing is saying what he's heard around anyway.
Right, right. All right. I was
So,
gonna say like in the car scene that we have this
mhm,
sort of somewhat important scene where I think it's Trayvon is saying to Kuzi, like, I think it might be Mike, right? And
mhm,
Kuzi is just sort of
right.
yeah, that could be, oh yeah, you're right. And I think
Mhm.
this is like I went back and rewatched the episode to try to figure out if there was any time where Kuzi like explicitly threw out Mike's name, and I didn't really see it. Like this, it was all stuff like this where she's just ahhing and like just not outright rebutting it, but not like actually throwing Mike under the bus.
Right. And especially not to Melissa, you
Why
know,
not Melissa?
well, because I mean, especially she especially didn't say it to Melissa, although Melissa will later claim that she did.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. maybe they didn't get that on camera, but I did not see any
Right.
time where she said Mike's name to Melissa.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting because I actually just told this story on another podcast, and now I've done 4 podcasts in the last 5 days, so I can't remember exactly which one. But I had a coworker who, oh, it was a Big Brother podcast. I had an employee who would do this. She would go to other employees and say stuff about other people like me. She'd be like, oh, David, he gives too much work, doesn't he? And the other person who was, not really wanting to engage would just be like, sure. Okay. Yeah. And nod along. And then this, she'd run back to me and she'd be like, Pam is saying that you're giving out too much work. And, she's just trying to stir the pot. And that's what this seems very much like. That they, said it. Kuzi was just nodding her head along, and somehow it became Kuzi's saying this. And so we'll of course get to that in a few minutes here more specifically.
Right.
Now, let's see. So later, Melissa, May, and Donna talk. Melissa and May are focused on Kuzi, and May does take us back to the airport mission again. Donna then goes and tells Gerline she doesn't think so. She thinks maybe Mike. She adds that she keeps connecting with people that turn out to be traitors. There's only been one that they know of, So.
Like, what is she I guess because she's a psychic, she knows which ones she's already connected with that are going to be traitors. So she's just getting out ahead of that.
Yes. Yeah. That was exactly. I was like, this is the 7th episode. There's been one person. What are you talking about? Yeah. And then in a separate conversation, Trevon tells Leroy he suspects Mike. Elsewhere, May tells Mike and Gerline that Kuzi is going to say his name. But then she doesn't know why, because Kuzi never talks game to her. And so my immediate reaction, without fast forwarding, is like, so you don't talk game to her, but you know that she's going to say Mike's name. Okay. So that one,
that felt like a fairly transparent, I'm trying to, stir up something between Kuzi and Mike based on almost nothing.
Yes. Yes. And then Mike, like you mentioned, goes back to the airport theory. And if in that situation, Gerline says she would think possibly Kuzi. So then Mike talks separately to Kuzi and says he hears she's dropping his name. And Kuzi says they're lying. It's rubbish. And Mike tells both us and Kuzi that he wants her still there. So, the traitors are still sticking together.
I think, it benefits Mike's game for Kuzi to last one more episode. Yeah, I think is this the conversation where he asks her, like, who are you going to be going against? And she says Mel A.
Yes.
Yeah. Like when he agreed to that, I was like, oh, he's lying to her, like, because he's been on the airport thing all day. So you can tell how good I am at reading people. So, yeah.
All right, so now it's roundtable time, and I'm kind of surprised that Kuzi didn't confront May ahead of time. But one, I think they're limited in time, and two, maybe she just wanted to wait and see what happens at the roundtable rather than blowing something up right before.
Can we like just what was with some of the outfits at this roundtable? Like, Karine and I are about the same age. She's a little younger than me, and like she's wearing a pink plaid bra matching outfit with like bedazzlement, and like Donna's thing goes like all the way to her belly button. I was like, what is happening with the fashion at this round table?
I did not notice Donna. I did notice Karine, because I'm like pretty sure that's the first time we've had a host showing their belly button on the show. Usually they dress, I would call it elegantly. Now I am no fashionista or anything, so maybe what she was wearing I was thinking was considered elegant in some way, shape, or form, but from the sound of it, you're more on the page I am.
Yeah, it was definitely eyebrow raising. I'll put it that way.
So, um, now I do want to mention also that I had said, Kuzi didn't confront May, but she said she's ready and will slaughter her with words if May comes for her. She didn't even say respectfully this time. Last time she said she would respectfully violate them with words, and this time she's just going to slaughter them.
I don't know how you slaughter somebody respectfully, to be fair.
I don't know how you violate someone respectfully. So, that was last week.
Right. Kuzi, her attitude towards May seems to be like, flick off like a bug
Yeah. Yes.
going around her, like, stop it, leave me alone, stop it, stop it.
And it only gets worse during this round table.
Yeah.
Now, Travon starts by bringing up how people who targeted Mike are gone, and also claims Mike rolled his eyes when he hugged Mary. Now, Mike says he didn't, but I was definitely rolling my eyes when Travon said it, because, like, really, this is what we're going with now?
Yeah.
He's mixing facts with silliness, which I guess that describes Travon overall.
There was a scene earlier where Trayvon says, like, he says something about Mike, like, oh, right, when Gerpier accused Mike and then he was killed. And whoever he's talking to is like, well, yeah, but come on, that doesn't. And he's like, well, I'm just throwing everything out there, just might as well. I'm like, okay. Like, so, I mean, I guess he's trying at least.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So Leroy brings up Melissa, and both Travon and Kuzi agree. And then something about a wink, like, that I think Mike said something about she winked at him, and Travon says he won't accuse her based on a wink that she gave. Okay, but he will accuse Mike based off of a supposed eye roll.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I guess they were saying Melissa, like, gives winks to people to indicate, like, oh, you're special to me or whatever. And they've noticed that she does that with everybody, which is like, I mean, it's a little shady, but doesn't mean you're a traitor. It just means you're playing the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Melissa said she's being used as a pawn and that she will vote for Kuzi. And then she said that Kuzi said that she suspects Mike. So she finally brings it up in the and Kuzi gives this little combination squeal and yell, thing that I can't even replicate. And says that and says Melissa is lying. And then she starts grilling Melissa with a very simple question. Why did I say I thought it was Mike? If I said his name, I would have a reason.
Right.
And Melissa just keeps insisting it happened. She says she can't answer the simple question. And I think this is what really kills her here, because
this is where things just go off the rails. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, because then, May says she's had suspicions of Kuzi for a while, and Kuzi is like, yeah, I know. And, May brings up the whole switching of votes thing, and Kuzi notes, well, I had my reasons, and May says, well, they didn't make sense to me. Now, mind you, with May's track record, not making sense to her might be a good thing if she didn't accidentally get this one right.
Oh my
God. May also notes that Kevin and Mary, who were close to Kuzi, are gone. That should be a piece of evidence in her favor, not against her. You would want to keep people close to you. You would not want to get rid of the ones close to you. So again, May just doesn't really understand how this game is played.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they just, like, Kuzi and Mike just, like, especially Kuzi, just sort of outmaneuvered May and Melissa pretty much every turn in this round table. Just talked circles around them and just made them look like they were lying and flustered. And, it was impressive. So.
Yes. Yeah. And, also uses a little emotional warfare, because May says that the two of them barely talk. And Kuzi says, thank goodness, which, I laughed. So you laughed. Funny. May did not laugh. May is
so upset about it.
Very psychic Donna comes to Kuzi's defense, saying that she saw sadness in Kuzi when people came for her, which, she's seen in other faithfuls. And, Kuzi is, of course, happy for this. Mike joins in her defense, saying they don't talk much, but he doesn't sense she's a traitor.
Right.
He does then bring up Melissa claiming Kuzi said his name, and May too. And this sets Kuzi and May and others arguing, which Mike is just gleeful about. He's just so happy everybody's getting mad at each other.
It's like he's a little puppet master,
Right.
and they're all just dancing in front of him. He's so delighted by the whole thing.
Now, Kuzi notes that she won't bring something forward unless she's certain, because she knows she'll be questioned and doesn't want to look like a stupid idiot. And so then again, we circle back. Mike asks Melissa for the reason Kuzi gave, but Melissa still doesn't have one. Things get heated. Kuzi and Melissa go at it a bit. They call each other honey in a very non-loving way. Like, okay,
Yeah.
Honey,
don't call me honey.
Yeah.
Honey.
Yeah. It reminds me, I was in a hearing one time, and it was getting very, I was testifying. It was getting very heated between the other side and me. And my attorney asked something of the other attorney, and he responded snottily, and she goes, "Thank you." And he grabs the microphone back. He goes, "You're welcome." I'm like, we're going to have the transcript of this, but you're not going to get the tone. It's just going to look like they were being polite to each other.
So, yeah, professionals here. We're all professionals.
Yes. So before their votes are revealed, Trevon tells us he was thinking Mike, but at this point, they have to make sure their votes are not split. Look at him finally getting a glimmer of a strategic thought.
I know. I was like, whoa, that's actually correct. Like, you're on the wrong person. But yeah, it's like, given how, the number of traitors, they could easily swing in a split vote. So yeah, way to go, Trayvon.
Yeah. Yeah. You're only 7 episodes too late, but good job. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So May votes Kuzi. No surprise there. Trevon says he's been wrong every time so far, and continues by voting Melissa. Gurleen does too. Mike votes Melissa. Melissa, of course, votes Kuzi. Leroy votes Melissa. Donna votes Melissa. Mickey, who again I had forgotten was there, votes Melissa. Kuzi obviously does too, while saying her feelings are very hurt. So Melissa is banished. She goes to the Circle of Truth and tells them she's a faithful, with a little bit of that snottiness we were talking about earlier. Trevon throws his pen in frustration as I laugh.
Wait, I had like one comment I wanted to bring up here.
Okay.
Like, metagaming this? Do they seriously think that the producers came in, and as far as I know, neither Melissa was a reality star, right?
Correct.
They're both so producers came in and they picked out the 2 unknown women named Melissa to be traitors. That's their theory. That's what they're going with.
I don't think they metagamed it that much.
But what else are they doing? And like, who do they think was the other traitor? Like, it would have to be a male reality star at that point. Fierce is gone. Kevin is gone. Do you think it's like freaking Mickey? Like, what do you think is like? Logically, it makes no sense. So.
I mean, it's a very good point, because there was some metagaming going on earlier. There was even some talk, that Kuzi and Mike were going to recruit someone, like a May or a Rick. Or maybe even Gurleen as one of the reality, one of the stars to get, to sacrifice so that they could say, okay, good, they're gone, and now we can move along. But it seems you're right. People forgot about it. It's gone from their brains.
I mean, I guess we've seen Kuzi and Mike talking about how there should be a reality star. Have we seen the Faithfuls talking about how there should be a reality star? Or
yeah, there was at one point. Who was it that said? I don't remember who said it. They might not be there anymore. But, Rick actually, I think, was one of the ones who said. Rick said something about one of the people has to be, a celebrity, a reality star. And I think that started Kuzi thinking about, oh, we need to find one to sacrifice.
Yeah, but just like in terms of like, I feel like Melissa was like the worst possible. Like she was in the blue team. She's has the same name as another traitor that was already expelled, and also it would have mean they had two non-reality star women as the initial traitors. And yeah, I guess that she was on death row, so that's like the one sort of informational thing. But like other
Right.
than that, this is just a very I don't understand this vote at all.
I mean, she was on death row and she apparently tried to throw Kuzi under the bus with really in a bad way. I mean, if the thing is, if Melissa had been a traitor and had survived all this time, she would have had a better story.
Hmm.
Like if you're going to, by this point, they should all know the same thing that Kuzi said. I'm not going to come here with a suggestion unless I have some evidence behind it. So,
Right.
what did I say to you, allegedly, Melissa, that I thought Mike was? And Melissa, just out of self preservation, when she started getting grilled on it, I mean, from everything we've heard, she's a talker. I think
Hmm.
we've heard before that once she starts going, she keeps going.
Right.
And so for her to just have nothing to say,
Right. Just make something up. Like
right?
just say something. Like, oh, because I now I'm blanking, but
Yeah.
like a lot of people suspect Mike. There are a lot of reasons to throw Mike's name out.
Yeah, I mean, literally, there were other reasons given. Travon had given reasons. Kevin has previously given reasons. Just use
Right.
one of those, but instead, she played it honest and was like, "Well, she didn't give a reason."
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, you're just
Yeah.
shooting yourself in the foot there.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, ugh, I wish the faithfuls wouldn't like all switch their votes based on one roundtable conversation. I feel like it's just so easy to get swayed in that situation
Yeah.
without being able to go off into separate groups and have some maybe Melissa could, if she had had a chance to talk to people privately, would have been like, okay, I just didn't want to say this out loud or whatever.
Hmm.
Like I feel like it's almost never a good idea to start switching your votes at the round table. It almost never works out well.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a number of them suspected her going in. I mean, we heard her name several times. And I think just
Hmm.
this was kind of the nail in the coffin, more than anything. But yeah, I mean, there are, I often say there's barely any such thing as a live tribal council at Survivor, and on Big Brother, the votes are decided long in advance, and
Yeah.
but on the Traitors, yeah, people will switch based on the roundtable.
Yeah, definitely. Which is, I mean, I guess it's a pro for the show to make it more interesting. So there
Right,
you go.
right.
Yeah.
Um, so after Trevon throws his pen, May calls out Mike and says that he had said he trusted Melissa as others had.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, Karine congratulates the traitors while Trevon has literally broken down crying.
Ravon is weeping, like just completely gone. Just yeah, I didn't realize he was so close to Melissa. Like I guess I didn't realize any that Melissa existed until like 2 episodes ago.
Well,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. And the funny thing is, so Matthew Keeley, who also does much of the hosting, most of the hosting on this on the Tradar podcast and runs the podcast network. It's funny because he was just watching it as we were starting to record, and he messaged me, "Why is Trevon having an emotional meltdown?" And so, to answer your question, Matthew, we don't know, except that he's Trevon. I don't know if it's because it's Melissa, and like you said, maybe he's close to her, or is it that he's just so tired of being wrong all the time?
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating to be wrong that whole time, but like it also shows sort of, he must be feeling pretty safe too. Like I feel like I'd be relieved to get through a banishment without getting voted out,
Yeah,
Like, and he's just like upset that he did the vote wrong. It's like, dude, at least you're still here. You still have a chance at winning. Like But yeah, I can't imagine how frustrating it is to be in that castle and like just have no idea what's going on
Yes.
99% of the time. So yeah.
Yes. Speaking of which, so May goes to comfort him, and then there's a weird cut. Like May goes over there, and then suddenly she's gone back in her seat, and Kareen is there. So
Yeah.
it was a very weird edit.
He must have been crying for a while, I guess.
Yeah, or else maybe there
Yeah.
was a commercial there, and since I don't see the commercial breaks, maybe
I don't think there was,
okay.
no.
All right.
Okay.
I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but then in the parlor afterwards, May is crying herself because she is sure Kuzi's a traitor, and she's made it personal with her comments. And so she also says Kuzi has been policing her volume and tone. I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, that seems like maybe she's projecting a little bit there.
Yeah,
Like, I feel like she took a lot of offense at the thank goodness comment where like it was just like a little quip. It was one of those little things you say just
right.
because it like fits into the flow of the conversation. Like, is it a little mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're in a reality show. Like, so yeah, May's maybe a little overreacting here, but maybe it's good for her game because now like they're reluctant to murder her because it would throw heat on Kuzi. So
Yeah, maybe. And then I mean, I could see, where she calls policing her volume and tone. I could see like if May raised her voice at Kuzi and Kuzi says, "Don't you yell at me." Yeah, I could
yeah.
absolutely see Kuzi saying something like that. And then
But
May
we didn't
interpreting it.
literally see Kuzi
We
say
did
something
not.
like that.
No, we
Yeah.
did not. In my mind, I could see that if what May is saying is true.
Right.
Um, and so anyway, Trevon is still very upset, and of all people he's venting to, it's Kuzi. And she tells us he's a pure soul.
I think she was having a lot of trouble not laughing in his
Yes,
face.
yes. And I would agree. Maybe he's a pure soul. I would also say pure souls shouldn't be playing this game.
Oh, you gotta have a few pure souls in this game. Like, what fun would it be without them?
I guess. Yeah. I mean, where would we have been without Quentin and Andy on, the Traitors US? So,
Oh, yeah, that's Quentin.
yes.
Trayvon is a going for Quentin's crown as
Yes.
strongest man in Traitors history.
Yes.
So,
So, Mike and Kuzi talk, which I thought was weird. I thought that this conversation was weird because if you're Mike
mhm.
and Kuzi after the roundtable, why are you talking at all? You're about you could talk up in the
Yeah,
tower later. Why are you even getting together to talk?
yeah,
Um,
like they're in a room alone. Like,
yeah,
how did that happen?
yeah.
Yeah.
So she tries to reassure him that she had not said his name, but from what he tells us, he doesn't believe her, and he's thinking that he may frame her and call her out. So, I'm trying to think of how this works exactly. So this is episode 7.
Huh.
If he gets rid of her in episode 8, I
And he would
think
have to.
I think he would have to blackmail and force a new traitor.
Right. I think that's true. I think that's right. Yeah.
So I feel like he wants to wait one more episode if he's going to do it. But on the other hand, she's probably thinking the same thing.
I mean, yeah, I think I don't know if we know that he's going to try to betray her like right away. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I thought, he's had these sort of, the dominoes lined up to betray her for,
Yes.
at least this episode and now going into the next episode. And it's just a matter of when he pushes it, I think. And like it may not benefit him to do it right away, but at the same
Mhm.
time, if it seems like she's turning on him, then like better her than him, right?
Yes. Yes. And then we go to the Traitors Tower meeting between them, which again, I don't know why this didn't take place then.
Yeah.
They discuss recruiting versus murdering. Mike doesn't think anyone would say yes to recruitment because of the emotional nature of the roundtable. So they decide to murder. So I guess the first question
Yeah.
is, what did you think of that?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this because like I think it's an interesting like I feel like the decision of whether to recruit or murder is like very different whether you look at it from like three different perspectives, right? Whether you look at it from the traitor's perspective, from Mike's perspective or from Kuzi's perspective, right? Like I feel like if you if you're either Mike or Kuzi and you recruit now, you're risking having three traitors go all the way to the end,
Hmm.
which like for the show is great. For traitor, like it almost
Right.
guarantees a traitor win, right?
Hmm.
Um, but for individually Mike and Kuzi, it makes it harder for them individually to get to the end, right? So like I understand why they chose. Like I guess I'm not sure I buy the oh, no one would say yes. Like I'm sure at least one person would say yes, but
Yeah. So I was thinking about that. Okay. So I ran through it. May would not say yes.
no,
Travan would not say yes.
no.
Donna would not say yes. I
Mm,
doubt Mickey would.
you don't think Donna would say yes?
I don't think so. I think it's too, she already considers herself a pawn. I don't know.
Yeah, so I feel like she would lean into it, you know? She's like, I'm a pawn of the traitors. Now I am a traitor. Like she's writing her own sort of narrative in the game.
Well, you might be right. You might be, although she talked about, looking forward to standing up and saying, I am a faithful. So
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's true.
Um, so Mickey, I mean, we don't even know enough about Mickey. We barely know he exists there. So I don't think he would, but who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe Gerline or Leroy.
Hmm. Hmm.
I just think it's
Yeah.
risky at this point. Like I would say no. I agree with Mike and Kuzi on this point.
Yeah, and I think there's an implicit thing, maybe they didn't want to say this, but like if one of us gets voted out, then we can blackmail, and then we don't have this pesky concern of are they actually going to say yes
Right.
or no,
Right.
right? So it's like it just doesn't benefit them right
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
to recruit.
Because earlier they were talking about recruiting someone as a sacrificial lamb, but
Hmm.
now there really aren't any sacrificial lambs left because Leroy or Gerline would be almost too strong. They'd see it coming.
Yeah, and it's like it's been they've had two episodes now where they weren't able to recruit, right? They had to
Mm-hmm.
put the people on death row and then kill the person on
Right.
death row. And so like the numbers have really gone down since then. And there's a huge difference between like having, adding a third traitor out of like 13 people and adding a third traitor out of like 8 people.
Yeah.
Like that gives that new traitor so much power and, just makes the game much less predictable.
Right.
So yeah, I totally understand their decision, but like at the same time, I mean, would it have guaranteed a trader's win if they had recruited? Should they care?
Well, they shouldn't care because they should only care about their own win.
Hmm.
So, yeah, recruiting someone who's going to turn against them probably, obviously wouldn't make sense.
Hmm.
So, I think they're probably better off doing it this way. I'd actually like to see a game where, yeah, there's no recruitment at all, just the two traders or however many make it, to the end. And so
Yeah.
I worry that someone will get rid of one of these two too soon. There'll be a blackmail, and then the blackmail person will win. Just,
Hmm.
that worries me because
Hmm.
that person really didn't do anything traitorous the whole time. And then suddenly poof.
Yeah, and
Um,
I'm enjoying this Mike Kuzi pairing so much.
yes.
Like I'd love for one of them to win out, or
Yeah.
both of them,
Right.
but more
Right.
likely one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're going to murder. Travan has been calling out Mike, so that could be a problem. May is a big problem for Kuzi, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
Kuzi doesn't want to take out Leroy because he makes them money. So maybe Mickey because he hasn't really played the game, which again reminds me that Mickey is in the game. They agree on who it will be, but of course, we won't know till next week. Who would you murder if you were a traitor?
I think if I were either Mike or Kuzi, this would be the time when I would start pushing hard to align my numbers, like Suri did
Mm-hmm.
In the American version, right? Like this is the time where it's really important to have pawns that are specifically on your side, not
Hmm.
just on the traitors, not just manipulable by the traitors. And so I feel like if I were either one of them, if I were Mike, I would push hard for May to go. If I were Kuzi, I'd push hard for Trayvon to go.
Okay. I mean, I was thinking, keep Trevon because he's perpetually wrong. Um, as far as May, I think it would be, obvious to murder May because she's coming so forcefully for Kuzi.
Mhm.
Um, but if I did, I would consider doing it. And then at breakfast, if I were Kuzi, I'd act all upset that they think I'm so stupid that I would do something that obvious.
Right. Which is exactly what they did earlier in the season with
Right,
Gerthier, and it
right.
worked fine.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, so as far as Melissa, I don't do why blank lost evaluations on the Traitors players yet. But since we said goodbye to Melissa, I can say that it sure seems like I don't know if I would classify it as scheming and plotting too much or just poorly. This is episode 7, like we said earlier. You should know not to just throw out a claim without having anything at all to back it up. Um, so and also,
Mhm.
like I said, she has a reputation for talking too much, and all of a sudden now she has nothing to say.
Yep.
Looking at the previews, it appears now anyone who doesn't want to know this and likes to avoid previews, plug your ears now.
Yeah.
Um, it appears Mickey, Leroy, and Donna are still there. So
Yeah, definitely Leroy. It
mhm,
seemed like we see Mickey for a second, and also Kuzi is talking about Mickey to Leroy, so it sure seems like Mickey is still
right,
there.
right.
So I think
Unless
it's
they're
either Trayvon or
yeah,
May. Yeah.
yeah. I couldn't tell. So they show some people like on a platform, and it looks like they're dropping them into water or something like that, and but I couldn't tell who it was on the platform. Um, we see Kuzi coming for Mike at the round table with the stuff about people having said his name. So either, I think, either they murder Trevon and then Kuzi uses it against Mike. Like Trevon said, you did this, you did that. And now look, it's a third one.
Oh, yeah, that's very possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they murder May. And the fact that May has been coming after Kuzi is brought up. So Kuzi goes in defensive mode and starts saying these things about Mike. Um,
Mhm.
I think I'm going to make my official prediction May.
Okay. I was going to say Trayvon, so there we
Okay.
go.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Well, uh, I guess before we finish up, I do want to let people know about other things we have going on here on the Trade podcast, both coming up and posted in recent days. We are working on some interviews, more interviews with the Traitors Canada players. Of course, I already interviewed the lone trader that apparently Donna connected with, and that was Melissa B. Um, and hopefully these other interviews will start coming soon. We posted our the third in a special series as Matthew and I are covering Survivor UK here. Now we know it's not the Traitors, but it is a strategic social game where you stab people in the back. So hey,
Mhm.
it's all good. And of course Matthew had never seen Survivor. I've covered it for over 23 years. So we're looking at it through those two different viewpoints. And Matthew's in the UK, so he fills in details I might not know, like why did they give a reward with chocolate milk and marshmallows? Is that a thing in the UK? Um, and he asks me questions like, what is a swap? And what is a merge? So, um,
Those key questions. Yeah,
yes,
he's asking the
yes,
right questions.
yes. Um, coming up here, we still have more great guests for the coming weeks, including one of the winners of the New Zealand season in a couple weeks. So we will have that. As far as you, Laura, where can everyone find you if they want to reach out?
Um, yeah, so I'm not like super active on social media, but I have a Twitter account that I post a lot of reality TV takes on. It's twitter.com/jcalderash, which is my username I've had for years and I'm very stubborn about keeping, JKALDERASH.
Okay.
If I could just give a small plug, I just wanted to say I've had a lot of fun in the past like year or two playing live Survivor games, specifically Survivor New York and Survivor Brooklyn South. So if that sounds like something that would be fun to you, like feel free to reach out to me or just like Google those names. And they're always looking for new players, and it's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of really awesome people.
Now, do those eventually make it like onto YouTube or something, or do they just play it and not really record it?
It varies. Usually it's either live streamed or they make it into episodes later. All the three that I did were live streamed, but there are definitely
Okay.
a bunch that are episodic as well.
Okay. Okay. And were you a traitor in any of those?
I mean, if I was, they would have gotten me out pretty early. So, yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of which,
I didn't say I was good at these games.
yeah. Okay. I didn't ask if you won. I didn't want any spoilers, you know.
Yeah,
So.
not quite.
I mean, you've always been good to my mind in the Mafia games, so
Yeah, I'm better at Mafia. People don't suspect me of being the
mhm.
Mafia for whatever, even though I almost always am.
Yes, it seems that
So,
way. And
yeah.
yeah.
So maybe I should have a live action Mafia game streamed on Facebook. Yeah.
All right. Well, it is time to finish the Traitor games. So did you get a lie-in to me?
I did.
Well, that's bad because I didn't write anything down. So I mean, I like have absolutely remember what I said at the beginning, like I get so into doing the recap that I forget to search for people's lies. Yeah,
Mhm.
I absolutely forgot. So hold on a second. Let me think here. What did we talk about that you said? I remember you saying a couple things early on, like about conversations that I didn't necessarily remember happening in the show. But I no, yeah, I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, no,
No, no.
those were all true as far as my recollection.
Okay. Then I have no idea. What was your lie?
So I lied when I made sure to bring up Kareen's outfit because I wanted to get in the lie that she was younger than me. So she's actually we're almost exactly the same age, but she's turning 40 in like a couple weeks or like next week,
Hmm.
I think, whereas I'm not turning 40 until next year. So that was a little
Ah,
one.
okay.
I was trying to set up a lie where like where we discussed because I was like whether recruiting another traitor
Hmm.
would make it impossible for the traitors to win because I wanted to say something like, oh, in Survivor UK they voted out three traitors in a row, but it just never came up naturally in the
Yeah.
conversation,
The
and
traitors, the
I had already
traitors
done the
UK. Yeah.
Korean thing, so I figured I would, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No need to lie to me twice. I did notice when you mentioned the age thing, but I am not good when it comes to ages, especially women's ages. So the last thing I would do was question your age or her age. So
That's
that was a
very fair.
yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one to put in there. So okay, do you have any idea what my lie was?
Let me see. I wrote down. I think the only one I wrote down was you sort of had a non sequitur about the hearing with the lawyers, and
Mhm.
I thought maybe you switched your roles there, that your lawyer was the one who said please and the other one said thank you, or whatever it was. But other than that, I didn't. I totally forgot for most of the podcast to be thinking about this
Nope,
stuff.
that was a real hearing. That was also the same hearing where the opposing attorney accused me of making up an email and a conversation. They literally accused me of faking an email. I was like, so now we're going to have to get the guy who wrote this email to me here to the hearing to tell you this. Luckily, the hearing officer was like, okay, come on, this is going a little too far now. But no, my lie was about Dom's picture. It was there. It just had a red X on it.
Oh, you're so mean. I was like, oh man, I forgot to look for that. That's crazy. Okay. Oh, that's a
So,
good one. That was a good one. Yeah, you got me.
I thought it might be too obvious, but I was like, I can't think of anything else. So I went with that one. So,
No, that was a good one. Yeah.
okay. Well, good. We both lied to each other, just like we're playing a game of Mafia. Um, so there we have it, episode 7 of the Traitors Canada. If anyone wants to reach out to let me know what you think, I am all over social media and reality TV podcasting. I podcast about both Survivor and Big Brother at the Rob Has a Podcast Network. Name of the show is Why Blank Lost. Of course, US Big Brother just ended. I mentioned that earlier. So our final podcast of the season is out, and you can find out why the winner won and the other 3 in the final 4 lost. I would say it. I don't think it's a spoiler at this point, but yeah, I'll just leave it as the winner for now. You can also find all my various social media accounts through my Linktree at Linktree/David Bloomberg with a dot before the EE in Linktree. Or you can find me on most text-based social media like Twitter and Blue Sky as at David Bloomberg. And on video platforms, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram is at David Bloomberg TV. I usually post 3 or 4 reality TV short videos on those video sites. Right now, it's obviously Big Brother trailing off. So they're a mix of US Survivor, Traitors Canada, Survivor UK, House of Villains, so basically US Survivor and then, these other shows here. So, also, you should make sure to check out the accounts for this podcast overall. You can find us on Instagram at the Traitors Podcast and on Twitter at the Traitors Pod. You can also email the Traitors Podcast at gmail.com. And if you'd like to help support the costs of publishing this podcast, you could drop Matthew a few bucks or whatever they are in whatever country you happen to be in at coffee.com, ko-fi.com/Matthew Keeley. And a special thanks to Sarah P. for donating this past week. I will be back here again next week with another very fun guest. Hope everyone tunes back in, and feel free to reach out through social media in the meantime. We will talk to you then. Bye.